I think that as we're beginning the process of breaking the blueprint for midlife, right? First, we have to know what it is that we're breaking. Recently, that there's been this phrase coined called Middlescense. This new term has been coined to really honor the fact that there is biological changes, hormonal changes, psychological changes, social changes baked into this time of life. And we're also in this longevity society now.
Welcome to the Blueprint Breakers podcast. What is a blueprint breaker? If you live your life outside the typical traditional lifestyle blueprint, you are a blueprint breaker. We are here to start a conversation, to assemble resources, and to build a community. This podcast is for empowered women in midlife and beyond who are preparing for a powerful next era of life. My name is Amy A. Palmer. I am your host and facilitator for our conversations. Sit back, relax, enjoy the show. To stay connected, up to date, and to receive all of our free resources and gifts along the way, join us at community.blueprintbreakers.com. Undiet your life and thrive in midlife. My conversation with Kim Jacques, intuitive eating coach for women, started with a focus on good health and having a positive relationship with our bodies, but we ended up exploring all sorts of topics, the dynamics of aging, embracing our full selves as we head into midlife and beyond. So enjoy this episode. A little bit about Kim. Kim Jacques has been a wellness professional since 1999 with a passion for helping people reconnect to the power that exists within their own bodies. Her career was inspired by her own recovery from a childhood injury, and she has been an educator, massage therapist, polarity therapist, health coach, and the founder of a community wellness center. Kim embodies her midlife crisis by embracing the definition of crisis as a time when difficult and important decisions must be made. In 2020, she made what she calls a midlife-informed pandemic pivot, selling her wellness center and her personal belongings in exchange for a sabbatical and an abundant minimalist lifestyle. During this time, she became a certified intuitive eating counselor and shifted her career towards helping women to discover what exists beyond the mind games of dieting so that they can enjoy a beautiful relationship with food and their bodies. Midlife changes can seem complicated and confusing, but Kim provides simple mindset and lifestyle strategies to help women thrive through midlife and beyond. Kim also shares a free guide with us. You'll see the link in the show notes for today's episode. And to make sure that you have access to all the information, including all of the free resources, you can sign up for our community at community.blueprintbreakers.com. That's community.blueprintbreakers.com. Enjoy our conversation. Hello, Kim. Such a pleasure to see you today.
Oh, I'm so thrilled to be able to chat with you, especially at the tail end of your amazing trip.
So thank you. Yes, I'm still making my adjustments back to day-to-day life. But I was definitely looking forward to our conversation. We have some amazing topics to dive into, some really meaty, juicy topics. I thought we could start by I'd love to hear about your journey. What has led you to serve as a health and lifestyle coach?
Yeah, I'd be glad to. Thank you so much for asking. And my passion for health and wellness has really been ever since I was 18 years old when I went on birth control. And unlike most women, I very quickly had a blood clot in my brain, a major stroke, was unable to speak, unable to move the right-hand side of my body. And I wasn't really satisfied with the medical prognosis that I would be pharmaceutically dependent for the rest of my life. Limitations the rest of my life. So I just really got very curious at a really young age of, is there a way to optimize my body? And it just made sense in my very naive, very young head that if my body knew how to heal a broken finger, that it should know how to heal a brain injury. And so just from that personal use of experiencing the power that the body actually is capable of, it became a lifelong passion of mine. And I've done that ever since.
Wow. Wow. What that must have been was that a long journey at a young age to go through that, all of that healing and come to the other side of it?
Yeah, it was, but I was blessed with the fact that this all happened to me in a foreign country. And so
Hmm.
I actually didn't know that I had that sort of injury until months after I had experienced it, because I was in a hospital in
Wow.
Eastern Germany at the time. And
Uh-huh.
so I already had some belief sets that were set in place. So I was like, oh, yeah, I'm healing. I don't know what this is. I don't really know what's going on, but it's okay. I'm healing. So then when I came back to the United States, it did take a while. Like it took me months to be able to speak again. And then it took time for me to know which language I was speaking in. That was funny. And then all the
Hmm.
little things, it took a couple of years to be able to
Wow.
regain everything and get off the medications.
Yeah. And the learning, the takeaways was it opened up a whole new world for you, right? And it
Mhm.
unlocked a lifelong passion. So that's pretty exciting. So
Yeah.
thank
Yeah, no, absolutely. It really inspired me. I feel like I'm an advocate for the body.
yes,
He knows
yes.
what to do. We just have to.
Yes, I agree. Like I'm very early on my journey in a similar sense. So it's funny because you and I met in real life before we connected online, which is not always the case these days. When we met, I didn't really know a lot of behind what you study and what you teach. So as when we connected online and you were talking about like listening to the body in a lot of different areas, whether it was with what we go through in midlife, or if we're dealing with weight and how we feel about weight and all of that, it just so resonated with me. So I'm really looking forward to you sharing some of that today. One of the things that you mentioned that really jumped out the last time we spoke was the whole concept of middlescense and that particular term. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Oh, absolutely. I think that as we're beginning the process of breaking the blueprint for midlife, right? First, we have to know what it is that we're breaking.
Right.
And it's the early 1900s is really where we started to identify that adolescence has its unique physiological and psychological attributes that were worthy of
Mhm.
studying and honoring and really creating a space for there to be conversation around this unique time in life that has major hormonal transformations.
Mhm.
And we began the process of really diving into how do we support individuals navigating this time of life. And it's an important time of life because it's when a child is turning into a very valuable adult. And there's lots of
Mhm.
reasons why there's value there, right? There's productivity value, but there's also reproductive value. So there's all this value baked into the transition from child to adulthood. Then there was this other major hormonal time in life that was kind of like, yeah, and then you get old. And recently that there's been this phrase coined called middle essence. With so many similarities, right? There's major
Mhm.
hormonal changes, there's changes in how we bring our value to society, but there hasn't really been a huge emphasis on what value we bring to society, right? There's this concept of, oh, you're over the hill and there's this inevitable decline that happens, but really we're transitioning from being productive reproductively, potentially, to being productive from a place of life experience and wisdom, and being able to create the paradigm shifts and the support to our society in ways that we really couldn't when our energy was being so fully diverted into finding a partner and having a baby, if we chose to do that, right? And then
Mhm.
raising a child, so much energy invested in that. And so this new term has been coined to really honor the fact that there is biological changes, hormonal changes, psychological changes, social changes baked into this time of life. And we're also in this longevity society now
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
where midlife is really mid, like you're 50 years old, you could live another half of your life. So there's emphasis on, okay, let's take this time to really reflect upon, maybe retool who we are, how we're showing up to society in a really place of mindfulness, and really honoring the fact that it doesn't need to be industrialized. You should be able to show up to work the same way. You should be able to perform sexually the same way. You should be like, how do you fix all these things? Maybe there's just a different way to be able to this time. So that's a little bit of Middlescense.
Yeah. Thank you for having the conversation. I'm so glad that I'm starting to see more people and hear more people talk about it because it's a very impactful phase of life. It can be confusing and it can throw us through for a loop. For me, it tossed me into a depression for a while. And it took me a long time to figure out it could also be a reawaken. Like it could be, there's so many great possibilities coming at this time of life. So embracing that, I think, is just huge.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're not alone. So many people feel like they're in their own isolation pod.
Exactly.
And how do we deal with that is come together and bring voice to it. So thank you for doing that.
And so I remember one of the things that started to happen for me and really in perimenopause, although I'm not even sure if I was fully aware that I was in that transition, because even though that was like maybe 10 years ago, it wasn't really being talked about. But I did know that my body was changing in ways that I was not happy with and didn't understand really. I knew things were going to change as you age, but it was very frustrating. And I'd love to hear some of your thoughts about when you're at that phase. How do you rediscover and embrace the body that we have now as it changes and evolves?
Such a good question. And I think that the first thing that we need to do is really acknowledge that it's a normal process for this change to happen, right? Just like when we were an adolescent, suddenly we were losing our childlike body, right? When we're stepping into middlescence, we are losing our more youthful appearance. So there is, with change, there's always the importance of holding a space for grief, not being in denial around the change or even chasing the resistance to the change. Not to say that investing in your health and things like that are negative, the whole anti-aging, but the reality is that our mind is at the seat of acceptance or resistance. And our mind's job is to feed us negativity. And I hate to say it, but brain science shows that the majority of our thoughts we're going to think over the course of a day are going to be negative because the brain's job is to protect us from danger. And so our brain was programmed in our early days to say, oh, it's your job to look like the beauty ideal, so that you can attract a mate, so that you can reproduce. That was a biological framework our brain kind of adapted to. So here we are in our 40s and our 50s, and our brain is still speaking the old language, saying, oh my gosh, it is absolutely imperative that you're attracted to a 24-year-old boy. That warning is outdated, like it's totally outdated. We are still fed that, right? So one of the things that I feel is really important to be able to embrace the body that we have is to just realize how outdated the alarm systems of our mind are to the application of who we are today. And just to be able to be in the seat of our truth, our authentic truth, and recognize that mindset is not necessary to listen to. And it's not easy to do that. It takes practice. But I think that's the very first thing, is to realize that the mindset is both programmed from that sort of survival of the species, but it's also programmed by a $71 billion diet culture.
Yes. Yes.
That's a lot of dollars that have invested highly sophisticated systems to program your mind to chase an ideal of perfection that, gosh, I was just at the airport the other day and I was looking around at all the gorgeous bodies, right? And I was like, oh my God, these are amazingly gorgeous human beings. And maybe 1% of them was the beauty ideal. But there were so many gorgeous skin colors and sizes. And it was like, but I have to admit that before my untangling myself from the diet mentality, I could not see all of
You
that
wouldn't see it.
others. And I
Mhm.
also had a neurotic self-judgment around my own lack of beauty, right? And
Yep.
so I believe the very first thing is really going through a process of deprogramming from the $71 billion diet culture.
Yeah. I mean, I've found that as I've been working on deprogramming myself and breaking all the blueprints in my head, those thoughts still come up. But the difference is now I notice it and I stop and I think, where is that coming from? Is it really coming from me, or has that been carefully crafted and designed and fed to me for a lifetime? And then now we have Martha Stewart on the cover of a magazine, looking amazing. I have to say, they're stretching into the look this way when you're 81 too. So,
Yeah. Yeah. If I forget about 50, girlfriend, you've got to look youth. You got to look like you're 20 when you're 80. I
I
mean,
know.
kudos to her for
Yes.
self-expression, but
Yes.
the internalization of self-judgment is my choice when
Yes.
I bump up against that. But who's having conversations in that way?
So that brings me to ask your thoughts and feelings around weight, because I know that was one of the first things that I wanted and needed to do in the recent phase of life is I wanted to lose weight and was very unsuccessful many times until this past year. I'd love to hear sort of your thoughts on losing weight, dieting, all of that.
Yeah, thank you for asking. And I can tell you that my thoughts around that have completely transformed over the last decade. I was born naturally thin. I never had to diet, right? And
Mhm.
so I had this thinking that losing weight was easy, right? If you just knew what to do, you would be
Mhm.
fine. And that is not the case. Scientifically, we've known that for decades already, that the highest predictor of weight gain is dieting. Okay. So we have this knowledge that dieting does not work. However, we also have people who are maybe even feeling a little panicked. My body's changing. How do I control it? And so, my first question that I ask women when they come to me and say that they need to lose weight, and the word need is typically in that statement,
Mhm.
need to lose weight, is I ask them, how did you come to that conclusion? And you're laughing. Why are you laughing?
Because I mean it's an obvious question, but one that we wouldn't necessarily ask ourselves.
Yeah. And so 100% of women that I've asked that question responded the exact same way that you did. Like, I don't really need to say I'm laughing because I'm uncomfortable with that. Like, and so we tease out, like, why are you interested in weight loss? Now, the majority of women, when they say, gosh, I need to lose weight because I want to feel better about myself.
Mm.
I need to lose weight because I want to feel more confident. I need to lose weight because I want to feel sexier, right? I want to go back dating, whatever it might be. These are things that they want. They're
Yeah.
feelings that they want that aren't necessarily ever achieved through weight loss. I was speaking to a woman who's 69 years old. She's one of my coaching clients right now. An amazing woman, powerful woman who's overcome so many obstacles in her life. And she's been struggling with body dissatisfaction, with the constant barrage of negative judgmental thoughts in her brain for her whole life, right? She's what is it? Why can't I overcome this? Why can't I just lose weight? And so we picked it apart. I was like, when were you your lightest? And she said, when I was 20, whatever it was. And I was like, okay, was that light enough for your mind? Or did you still have judgmental thoughts then? She was like, gosh darn it. I did still have, I said, are you going to ever achieve your 20-something-year-old body? No. Okay. So if your mind is never going to be satisfied with your body weight ever never achievable for you, why are you trying to satisfy it? So my long-winded answer is weight loss, when it is a replacement for trying to find self-satisfaction, self-worth, body satisfaction, it's never a path to achievement, right? And so that's when people fall into the diet cycle, as you said, the losing weight, gaining weight, losing weight, gaining weight. That's actually less healthy for somebody than maintaining higher weight. Okay? So that's why I asked that question. If the motivation is a feeling-based motivation, then we work there first and make sure that anything that we change is sitting on a foundation of acknowledging that the brain will never be satisfied. Now, granted, it is a very painful message that our mind tells us all the time, and we want it to stop hurting us. So we say, I'll do anything that you tell me to do, right? But it never is going to shut off, ever. And so acknowledging that's the case, sitting in a seat of self-appreciation, self-love, self-respect, and then building a lifestyle pattern around not weight loss, but around amazing, enjoyable, nourishing eating patterns that are built on satisfaction, built on enjoyment, sustainability, and movement that is enjoyable, not a penance for eating an extra piece of chocolate cake, right? There's no math in movement. It is just simply enjoyable expression of owning a body. So when we create a foundation of self-acceptance and appreciation, we ditch the idea of self-loathing our way to a thinner you, then we're able to start building that lifestyle, and maybe it's going to lead to weight loss. Maybe it's not going to lead to weight loss. But the reality is your body has a set point for every season of your life. And when we create the movement and the nourishment that is around satisfaction, enjoyment, and sustainability, then your body finds the healthiest, authentic weight set point. And if we can find a way to acknowledge that the voice that's been programmed by diet culture for decades is still going to squawk, but we don't have to buy into it. The weight loss, sure, maybe somebody comes to it from a place of, I am interested in being able to take some weight off of my knees so I can avoid knee surgery. Okay, but it's still the same strategy. We need to look at, where is it coming from? Is it coming from self-loathing? Are we building practices that are going to be unsustainable? Because there's always going to be a mind ready to jump all over you and throttle you with disappointment. We need to make sure that's there and then help the natural set point accumulate.
There's two really big things that jumped out at me when I listened to you. One is that this is directly connected to what you learned at 18. That you learned that our body has the power to take care of itself and to give itself what it needs. And we just have to learn how to listen to it and be able to identify it. So what you learned from a very young age is still, it's connected to this whole concept. Absolutely. And yeah. And the second thing that's just like blowing my mind, a big aha, why do we continue to try to achieve this certain thing through weight loss when we have a history of the weight loss does not give us that certain thing?
There's $71 billion a year that are invested in telling you that it is the solution to all of your life issues.
And so I know one of the terms that's used as you talk about this is intuitive eating. And that's that I've heard for a while. Tell us, what is it and does it really work? Does it help?
Yeah, good question. Intuitive eating at its core is a self-care framework. Okay. And what it does is, through following 10 principles, It is allowing for you to systematically empower yourself to strengthen your ability to listen to your body and weaken the aspects of your thinking that decrease your ability to listen to your body. So it's working towards, here's a fancy term for you. It's called interoceptive awareness or somatic awareness, but it's really just about being able to listen to your body. And we're not taught to do that. We're actually, through our industrial society, little tiny things build up to help disconnect us from our body, right? So little things like you can only go pee when it's time. You can only eat when it's snack time. These are little things that we learn as a kid, right? Oh, but I'm having an urge, but I can't follow it. I'm not allowed to follow it. And then you slip into you're 13 years old looking at 17 magazine, and you're seeing all of these diets. Dieting is at its core, fundamentally, is about separating you from your body cues. I'm hungry, but you can't eat. I'm eating, but I'm not full. You're not allowed to, right? I'm eating this food and it's not satisfying me. You don't deserve satisfaction because you're not thin enough yet. Okay. So we have all of these things that are decreasing our body connection. And then intuitive eating has 10 principles to be able to increase that body connection. So it's things like rejecting the diet mentality, honoring your hunger, making peace with food, challenging your inner food police that's saying the rules around food, that you're allowed to only eat good foods. And here's what the good foods are. You're not allowed to eat the bad foods. There's a kill or cure mentality around food. If you eat this, you're going to get cured. If you eat this, literally, I just laugh when I see somebody saying, eat kale every day, or else you'll die. And then somebody else says, if you eat kale, there's toxins in there and it's going to kill you. So where do we even begin? So it's about that, discovering your satisfaction factor, coping with emotions with kindness, and realizing that emotional eating is a coping mechanism that should not be denied. However, it gives us a moment to pause and say, why am I going to grab for food? Perhaps I'm going to grab for food because I'm overwhelmed with X, Y, and Z. So we can either eat it away, or we can say, wow, there's actually something bigger that I I wasn't willing to look at before, but now I am willing to look at it, respecting your body. Things like if you have a pair of jeans in the closet, every time you pick them up and look at them, make you feel bad about yourself, throw them away, right? Don't wait. Exercising and move with gentleness and awareness, and also gentle nutrition, meaning that, I just went to the grocery store the other day and I saw 4 magazines. One was lose 6 pounds in, 2 seconds. One was keto, one was Mediterranean diet, and one was plant-based. And I was like, okay, so here's a person at the grocery store faced with 4 divergent food rules. Which one do you choose? So it's about looking at nutrition from a very simple, basic, non-rule based, but like, when I eat this, how do I feel? Connecting to the feelings. I was vegetarian for many years and I felt like crap. It wasn't my thing, right? But I should be a vegetarian for that time. It was moralistic reasons, but I wasn't connected to my body. Well, my body feels like crap. My body feels amazing when I eat this way. Oh, you mean I can just eat the way that I feel? No, there's somebody with a lab coat and a PhD behind their names that says I should eat this way. So it's untangling all of that and re-empowering the person to be able to step back into autonomy over their own body.
That's an excellent description. I've been following intuitive eating for about the past year, and my relationship with my body's so much improved, and really digging into the thought work behind it. I do a lot of journaling to process, how I'm reacting to certain things. So I absolutely agree with you that it's the way to go. I'm curious if you have any specific thoughts on how this impacts us, if it impacts us during perimenopause and menopause.
Excellent question, because this is a really specific time of life, right? We have
Mhm.
different biology going on that is
Mhm.
less tolerant to shenanigans. Okay. In our 20s and our 30s, maybe we started to feel it in our late 30s. We could do a lot of shenanigans and our body was pretty resilient. Now things are changing. And I like to say that my body has become more discerning. This is what you need. And so in perimenopause, our hormones are changing, and hormones actually need fats.
Mm.
They need them to be balanced. So if we were brought up in the 80s and we were fearful of fats, that spawned a nation of individuals who are a pandemic of PCOS, right? Because we had antibiotics and low fat diet. We had a lot of adolescent women being brought up with deficient of the fats that they needed for their hormones. Okay. So now here we are, and we may have been brought up in that time still reducing our fats because we should, right? So there's that aspect of just creating a nutritional environment that really supports hormonal balance. But another thing that happens is we become a little more tired, just like adolescents became more tired, just as babies are more tired as their body is going through transformation, but we don't honor it. And so there's that Dunkin' Donuts commercial that says America runs on Dunkin'. And ultimately, it's a coffee shop in case somebody is around Dunkin' Donuts. But the reality is Americans run on adrenaline. Fiend kicks in adrenaline. Well, many people understand that adrenaline gets kicked in and you get more energy. But what many people don't understand is that adrenaline is created by adrenal glands. They're glands that produce hormones. And if they're producing a massive amount of adrenaline, then they're not as equipped to produce the other hormones that they're capable of producing. Now, two of the hormones they're capable of producing, drum roll please, progesterone and estrogen. Okay. So as our ovaries in perimenopause are reducing the production of progesterone and estrogen, we are equipped to have our adrenals buffer that transition. But we're depleting ourselves and then energizing ourselves again by producing adrenaline, which is an artificial energy. It's only meant to be used once in a while, not every day, not multiple times a day. So then we have adrenal fatigue, and then are subsequently experiencing hormonal symptoms more because we're not caring for our adrenal glands. Now, there's very simple things that we can do to care for our adrenal glands, including reducing our output in the world, saying no to things once in a while, right? Taking a nap and not feeling guilty about it. My 96-year-old grandmother's, I took a nap today. I feel so bad. I'm like, you're 96 years old. Take a freaking nap. We can do things like nourishing ourselves. This is not a time for us to be restricting and controlling our food. It's time for us to nourish ourselves, and nourishing ourselves from a place of replacement versus restriction. Right. So we can, as long as we're eating to our fullness with things that really nourish us hormonally, then we're not going to be as hungry for the things that are not as nourishing. If we're feeling snacky, it's because we literally didn't eat enough. We didn't eat enough. And so things like healthy, amazing whole foods, greens, proteins, whole grains, these are things that really nourish our whole body, but also specifically our adrenal glands. And things like caffeine and sugar that we might be craving because we're energy deficient. We might be energy deficient because we don't have enough nutrients to be able to stoke our fire. So when we're in a diet cycle at midlife, we're just poking the bear, if you will. And that's what we're programmed to do, be 50 years old and slim as a 20-year-old. And God love the people who are doing that and are feeling in alignment physically and emotionally. But I dare say the majority of individuals, women who are stepping into midlife, are chasing that ideal, not achieving it, and not physically or emotionally feeling their best. Yeah, menopause and perimenopause are particularly important times to be nourishing and replenishing versus controlling and restricting.
That all rings true to me based on my own experiences as well. I agree with everything that you're saying 1,000%. Thank you for that. What thoughts or advice do you have for women who are just feeling stuck? Like they know that they need to make a major pivot in their lives, and the way that they feel about their body, their current body, just keeps getting in the way of taking care of anything else. Any thoughts or advice on that?
Yeah, my advice is to start with principle 1 of intuitive eating. Principle 1 is ditching the diet mentality. No other transitions will be made sustainably until we let go of the illusion that we should be chasing an ideal in the form of dieting, which is restricting, controlling, and depriving. I would say the very first step in whatever method somebody chooses to do that, whether they choose to work with somebody like me as an intuitive eating counselor, or whether they choose to go on YouTube and look up some intuitive eating tips, or whether they purchase an intuitive eating book, like whatever their methods of self-learning, education, feeding their mind a little bit. And it's a challenge. Even though I had the background in my life experience that said the body knows best, when I hit midlife, I went into the resistance panic mode of, oh my God, what is happening to me? And why can't I look like I'm 35 until I'm 90? Like I should be able to. And the self-judgment set in, and it just really started to look messy inside and outside, because using dieting is always going to confuse your metabolism, right? I would say identifying whatever method feels in alignment to start challenging the misinformation of the diet mentality and stepping into a place of self-compassion, and dare I even say self-love, although self-love is a tricky, fleeting thing. It's like you see a butterfly, there's self-love, and then it's gone. It's not something that you are suddenly you have it and you have it forever. It's always going to be a journey and a practice, but whatever is done from a place of fear, if I don't do this, I'm not going to be loved. If I don't do this, I'm going to get fat. If I don't do whatever is done from a place of fear is always unsustainable.
Right.
Whatever is done from a place of love is always going to be long-term solution. So setting a foundation right there with ditching the relatively abusive, toxic mentality of the diet culture is a good place to start. Not an easy one, but it's a good place to start.
Excellent advice. Thank you, Kim. I've had so many takeaways from our conversation today. I want to thank you, not just for your time today, but for everything that you're doing to help impact this phase of life for women, rewriting the messaging, helping with the deprogramming so that we can really just embrace where we are. So thank you for that. I would like to ask, for those that are listening that want to learn more and want to find out more about how you serve, what services you provide, where can we find you?
Yeah, I am on YouTube. I am on LinkedIn. I am on Instagram. I am on Facebook. So I believe if there may be some links in the bio
Yes.
of this podcast. And also I do have a free giveaway for people that they can download. And it's a guide called Eating Your Way to Hormone Health with very simple suggestions of things that you can add into your life. But also there's a webinar that comes along with it and a series of emails so that you can just sit and ponder and question and think. So those are some things that you can take advantage of for sure.
Fabulous. Thank you. Yes, I'll make sure that I link to that in the show notes. So please go there to check it out. Thank you, Kim. Thank you for your time. It was so fun talking to you today.
Oh, it's always fun talking to you too, Amy. I appreciate you.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Blueprint Breakers podcast, Undiet Your Life and Thrive in Midlife. A special thank you to today's guest, Kim Jacques, for everything that you shared with us this week. And thank you to you, the listener, for sharing this with your friends. And please go on to your podcast platform and rate and review. I'm very appreciative of your 5-star reviews. If you want to get more information to access Kim's free resource guide and to continue to get information about our month-long global launch party, please join us at community.blueprintbreakers.com. Thank you. Have a great week and keep on breaking those blueprints. Wait, one more thing. This Thursday, June 8th, is our very first after the show live virtual discussion group. So join me. I want to meet as many blueprint breakers as I can. And we're going to spend a little bit of time sort of sharing our stories, connecting, any questions that you might have about any of the topics covered this week or in any other previous episodes, any ideas, any thoughts, just a chance to connect and have a conversation and share our stories together. So again, go into the show notes and check out the Zoom registration link. Thanks. Bye.